My name is Ian and welcome to Planted. I've been growing plants since the 80s and I willingly share with you my plant knowledge so that you can have more success growing plants in your own yard. Now in this video I want to talk about vines and climbers. This is a spectacular range of plants that has it all. Now there's two groups. You've got those that are hardy, you plant outside, they stay outside year round and they are wonderful. They do need pruning. And then you've got a whole new range of vines and climbers, and these are the tropical and subtropical. These grow like crazy and have a really long flowering season, and they provide you with remarkable growth, beautiful flowers, and become real talking points. So let me share with you my thoughts on vines and climbers. I find the benefit of growing vines and climbers is that you get this very minimal growth in the springtime, and then once it starts to get a little bit warm they just grow like crazy, and you can transform a garden from quite bare and bland into something truly exotic. Now you can grow things like this. This is just a regular grapevine, big foliage. It will grow fast, it'll put on many feet a year and you will need to prune it. The same as wisteria, the same as honeysuckle. But this stays in the ground year round and you don't have to dig it up and move it. But I am particularly drawn to tropical vines. These are those plants that in my climate won't last outside throughout the year. They need a little bit of love, a little bit of help. But my goodness, the reward is amazing. There's a plant called Vigna or Cochliasanthus. You'll hear more about that. Spectacular flowers, well worth finding. And then there's a plant called Pandorea, which has got beautiful pink or white flowers. But what these plants give you is an extended flowering season. They don't just flower end of June and flower for 2 weeks and then they're done. You get this ongoing prolific flower production that really will set your garden on fire. And I think the easiest way to explain this is that vines, and those tropical vines in particular, are a missing ingredient in many gardens. If you think of your garden as petunias and roses and arborvitae, you are absolutely missing out if you don't have any vines. So I encourage you to try them. Tried and tested climbers that live outside year-round are things like honeysuckle, clematis and wisteria. But I want to share with you my selection of choice vines, some tropical, some hardy, but all remarkable. Now next up on the list is this plant. This is a tropical climber, and just look how much growth it's got. It started here probably 8 weeks ago, and we've got 2 feet going all the way up, and then it's coming across and now it's looking to latch on. This is Vigna caracalla and it's had a name change. It's Cochliasanthus caracalla. I have done a video on this. An absolutely spectacular plant. And I think that vines are the missing ingredient, vines and climbers are the missing ingredient to many gardens. They give you rapid growth that is just remarkable, and flowers if you choose them wisely. Just look at this flower. Now next up on our little voyage of discovery is this plant. Now you might not think of this as a climber or a vine, but any plant that has these very delicate little tendrils is saying that it can actually climb. These will latch onto a framework of something and help pull it up into the sunlight. I couldn't find this to buy it as a plant, so I bought it as seed. And here we've got the flowers. Look at that little delicate flower assembly. Absolutely spectacular. And this is one plant. You can see how dense it is. And that's what we've got. This is Lathyrus latifolius alba. And this lowercase l and lowercase a indicates that it's naturally occurring. It's not a hybrid in any way, which means it's very tough and very reliable. And here we've got more of those tendrils looking to latch onto something. And I like the way this just scrambles across the ground, finds something to latch onto, and then it'll take off. Beautiful flowers, absolutely beautiful flowers. Now then, look at this. This is new to me this year. I do like clematis. I think some of the large clematis can be a bit cabbage-like, but these small clematis are just to die for. This one will grow 5 feet. I'm hoping it will grow up this framework I have here. Now clematis do like it when their feet are in shade, so they get ample moisture and they grow into the sunlight, which is a great attribute of a vine or a climber, in that you can plant them and then move them where you want them to be. Now this is a strange plant. This is probably one of my most choice plants, Lapageria, looking very sad. And I have to say that's just the way it is right now. But this will reward you with these spectacular flowers. I've spoken about this before. These are bell-shaped, 3 inches long, but just exquisitely gorgeous in their architecture. There is a dried flower from last year. Obviously it doesn't tell you much. But what I want to point out to you is that this plant will suddenly put on new growth. There is some new growth. See how healthy that is? And then these leaves here will all fall off. No big deal. Now I bought this next plant a year or so ago, and I didn't put it in the right place. This is Dutchman's pipe, or Auriculata. And the gigantea obviously is indicating that it's got something very large about it. Now I like this leaf. That is the perfect heart-shaped leaf. And you see how they all just hang on the corner as we go up. And this spiral growth really is quite spectacular. This is some rebar that I bent and painted and then fastened it to the top of my greenhouse. And look at the flowers this plant has. Truly spectacular. If I say spectacular a lot, I think you'll understand why. Now this is tropical. This needs to get dug up and protected in the winter. Something that I'm very prepared to do. I'll cut it back to about 2 feet tall. Remove this frame, and then remove this frame, and then I'll have growth from the ground coming up a couple of feet, and that'll get it through the winter. Now, I fell in love with this. Just look at that. That is not the Aureus. This is a Plumbago. And what I want to do is have it grow through. Yep, you can see it twining up here, look. And it's also starting to grow up here. I'm hoping that gets big enough to grow up into the Aureus, and we'll get 2 flowers for 1. Now on the wisteria, I've got something a little bit strange. This is our typical wisteria foliage, very dense. And you'll see here that we've got something else. We've got another foliage. This is the golden hop. I had this where the Aureus is growing over the greenhouse, but it became a bit of a thug. So what I've done is, I've planted it at the base of the wisteria, about 2 feet away, and been very careful to prune it back. And now it's growing up that wisteria. This is all the golden hop. And here it is, there's the stem growing up. And it's growing all the way up there. Now the reason for this is that it'll shade a little bit of the wisteria and maybe slow it down some. But this will also give us flowers later in the season. This wisteria's flowered, or in June now. So in August, when the hop flowers, it'll give us another degree of interest. Something else I've got hidden down here, this is a plant called Pandorea. Now Pandorea is tropical, it will be dug up. This one's taken a little bit of time to get going, but it's got these deeply cut little leaves, and in there's clusters of flowers. And I've seen these in pink and white. This was purchased as a white, but I did not purchase it in flower, so I don't know. But it's just starting to get itself going. And I'm hoping it'll scramble onto the fence and give us another dose of colour. Now this pot is very interesting. These are the good sized pots, and I've featured these many times before. We're not going to talk about this plant, we'll save that for another day. We're not going to talk about this one, and we're not going to talk about that one. This is Plumbago. Now this doesn't twist and twine, but it does put out these very long branches that put out copious amounts of pale blue flowers. And this one is just starting to set those flowers. But this one is white. This one is, give it a day or two and this will be open. Big foamy clusters of flowers. So this is definitely a vine or a climber, but it does need a little bit of support, a little bit of love from you to send it where it needs to go. But look at this, we got flowers here and there. There's another one right here. There's another one there. We've got two over here, and there's more in the back. So these are the plants that are going to start pumping out flowers all summer long. Now the way I take care of my tropical vines is that come October I cut them back to about 2 feet above the ground. All of that growth taller than 2 feet is sacrificed. I might take some cuttings and see if I get them to grow, but typically that is foliage that I no longer need. But what I want to do is make sure there's a few leaves attached to the stems, and I think that 18 inches to 2 feet is that perfect length to leave on the plant, and I carefully dig up the root ball, put them in a pot, and they go into my frost-free greenhouse, and there they'll happily stay for December, January, February. Come March time, a little bit of care and attention, give them a drink of water, give them some fertilizer, and they get planted out in April, and in May they really start to go. And here we are now in the middle of summer with them about to explode with their flowers. So tropical vines and vines in general are a great addition to any garden. And what I would recommend you do is start off with things like sweet peas or passion flower. Now these are plants that are widely available, and once you see the intoxicating flowers that they have, you'll be hooked. And then you can start to go for the more choice plants, those plants that are just a little bit more special. And if you can't overwinter them, that's okay. You could grow them for the spring, summer and fall, and then give them away or essentially let them die. And the next year you could grow something else. So they are a wonderful range of plants. I cannot speak highly enough about tropical vines. So if your garden's a little one-dimensional and you want to add something just a little bit special, do some search for vines and tropical vines that will grow in your zone and also not grow in your zone, but will grow in your zone in the summer. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends, tell your family, go plant something.